Off the Hook, airing on offthehooksports.com. Your home for real news, real opinions, and what really matters about Tennessee athletics. The Off the Hook podcast at offthehooksports.com or Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or wherever you go for your favorite podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, iHeart. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Off the Hook with Dave Hooker starts now.
With Chris Landry, I'm Dave Hooker, and this Chalk Talk is brought to you by The Mattress Place. The Mattress Place, sometimes people hear Chapman Highway and they think to themselves, well, that's a way down the road. No, it's not. It's just 2 miles from Henley Street, so they can take care of all of your bedding needs right there at The Mattress Place. And no gimmicks, just 30 to 70% off every day. The Mattress Place. You ought to see the reviews. They're fantastic. So before we get any further, I want to remind you to subscribe, hit that button, and like this video, and we can bring you more content about the Vols and about Tennessee. So camp is opening for Tennessee. Wanted to get an offensive breakdown, which should be pretty interesting because this is one of the more interesting offensive teams in the nation, Chris. I really look forward to seeing how they develop under Josh Heupel in year 2.
Yeah, 475 yards of offense per game, 39 points per game. And, college statistics can be a little misleading at times relative to the opponents that you play. I like to look at conference games more, but that's a pretty good number. Now, this offense, and we need to get used to it, that is like 30 points for this offense is, like 18 to 20 for most people, or maybe even 17. This offense failed to get 30 points against Georgia, against Alabama, against Ole Miss, against Florida. It was 7-1 when it got to 35 points or more, and 0-5 when they didn't. Well, that tells you right there. Better score a bunch of points because that's how we're made. And if we face a defense that is really good and we can't get our 35 points, we're probably not going to win the game. So I think that we know about the quarterback play, and we know about, how I think it potentially can be prolific. But I think what's going to be key is, can you win games? You're either going to have to – something's got to give. You're going to have to score your 35, 38 points a game, or you're going to have to find a way to be able to win some games if you score under 35 points in the 30-28 range. Can you do that? It's one or the other, because I think that when you look at Tennessee, and most of their schedule is very doable, but I think when people look at it, they'll say, well, there's 2 losses there. And then, I could see 10-2. Well, yeah, I could see 8-4, 7-5 as well. What's the difference? The difference is going to be what I just said. Can they get off the field defensively on third downs? Can they win games with scoring just 28, 30 points? Or can they score 38, 40 points in those type of games that will certainly greatly enhance their chances of winning? That's going to determine the rest of their schedule. What's going to be interesting to me and what's going to be pivotal is a couple of things. The offensive line, the left tackle position, obviously is going to be pivotal, and what they're able to get done there. If Crawford can hold his own, this has a chance to be a pretty good offensive line. We'll talk a little bit of the passing game, but I really think that the key guy is Jabari Small behind that offensive line. If he continues to play like he did towards the end of last year, when, he was a good part of the rotation, but against Vanderbilt, against Purdue, and I know their defense wasn't great as well, but he had 103 yards. He had like 180 on 25, 26 carries against Purdue. So if they can run the football more effectively, Dave, then that will give them a little bit more of a balanced pace, which will help their defense. And quite frankly, it'll help the explosive plays in the passing game, because there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to average 6 yards a carry consistently against this running this offense because you spread people out so much. You're running against 6-man boxes. So it is a lot easier to block than if you're a run offense and you've got extra guys to block and not as much space. I mean, you get 3.5 yards before anybody touches you. So you got a chance to build up steam. I think the running game in particular, and I will put Small at the top of that as he or someone else steps up at the running back, maybe is the most key guy for the offense to be able to help this team be better at maybe being a difference maker in some of those swing games or even more competitive in the 2 or 3 underdog games that they're going to be in.
Along those lines, who steps in for Velus Jones, who went on to the NFL? Because I had an opportunity to see Cedric Tillman at SEC Media Days in person, and he's every bit the listed 6'3", if not 6'4". I mean, he is a big dude. So I look at Brew McCoy, who has size 2, the transfer from Southern California, and I think, man, you'd have 2 of the biggest, most athletic receivers in the nation. But I don't know that Brew's ready. Who are some of the other guys, and maybe including Brew, that could be the Robin to Cedric's Batman?
Well, I think McCoy better be ready, and there's no reason to bring him in if he's not ready. If he's not a really good number 2 receiver, then they've missed on him because this is a guy that was really good. Now, I know we're talking about an elite talent, signed with USC, left for Texas, went back to USC, was suspended from the team, now is at Tennessee. So the only way that this guy's not an impact player is if he's still whatever caused all those decisions to be made is still a problem. The suspensions and whatnot. This is a guy that needs to have an impact. He's the guy. He's the most important guy. I mentioned running back, but I think he's the guy that in this passing offense, he needs to be not just the number 2, but a really good number 2 receiver alongside Tillman. If he doesn't play well, it's going to put a lot of pressure on other guys that I think are maybe not as ready. I think this guy should be ready. I mean, that's the reason why you bring him in as a transfer. If he's not ready, then why even bring him in? I mean, that's just, I think the key guys coming in are all the transfers. They've got like half dozen, I think 7 of them actually. He needs to be an impact player. If he doesn't, that's a mistake bringing him in.
Yep. Chalk Talk brought to you by The Mattress Place. So we always talk about the quarterback in this offense, the wide receivers in this offense, and that's understandable. But when you look at Princeton Fant and Jacob Warren, what do you think of the duo of tight ends there? They alternate. They don't play any double tight, so you don't see them in the field at the same time. But I really like their duo, and I think maybe they're possibly a little overlooked. Am I wrong?
You're 100% right. In fact, I didn't want to do give you 9 guys that are the key on each side of the ball, but they are 2 of them as well. Fant and Warren are really good. Now, you mentioned they don't play them on the field line. Somebody might be on, why don't they? Because they're 4 wide, 3 or 4 wide all the time.
Right.
They're a receiver team. So you're going to be one of those guys. But here's the thing about it. They're good mid-range targets. So what happens is when you're trying to spread the ball around and you're getting safeties that are playing deep hash, trying to help the corners out on the receivers or covering if you run vertical with the inside receivers, man, you got all sorts of space with the tight ends. That's easy pitch and catch, easy picking. So if the pressure is great and you can't get the ball vertical, boom, there's some big plays to the backs and particularly the tight ends, Fant and Warren. I think both of them can have big years, and I think they're big factors. But when I say they're big factors, they're going to have numbers. To be honest with you, they do a good job. The tight end that plays in this offense should always do well. I mean, if he can catch the football. Because, I mean, it's just you don't have to make a lot of people miss. You're going up against, dime backs, linebackers. If you can't shake those guys, you don't need to be playing tight end at the SEC level. And you should be able to catch the ball. And you got a quarterback that can get it there. I think those guys are going to have good numbers and have real impacts and force the defense to have to acknowledge them. If not, take that. We'll take that 12, 15-yarder, and then you're going to have to you adjust to that. Then we go deep and get a better matchup. So I think they're going to be a big factor. And listen, I always go back to this. Offensive line play, protection. You've got to have that. They got to run the football better against the really good teams, and their pass protection has to be better. So the offensive line is where it starts. If you can't hold up in protection, then the tight ends are going to be open. And this is where you can compress and get to this Tennessee offense. If you bring good pressure, the vertical stuff won't ever develop long enough for him to get the ball out. So then you can, vice grip the tight ends underneath, and then because you're bringing pressure. So all of this works in unison. It's like a chain link. The offensive line has to have good protection. If it can, and particularly I'm looking at the left tackle spot, they have a chance to have an offense that's very, very difficult for any team to stop.
Chris, you were at the Manning Passing Academy. You speak there regularly. Your thoughts, did you get to see much of Hendon Hooker, who was there? And just kind of as a follow-up question, if you look at his completion percentage, you would say one of the more accurate quarterbacks, but we both know that that's not really. There were guys running bare last year. So I still have some questions about his accuracy. How much can that improve in an offseason?
Well, I think his completion percentage will always be good because of this style. I think I think he's pretty solid in ball placement, but I think sometimes the ball comes out a little late. But I think experience, to answer your question, I think he can improve it. I think he can improve it a great deal because I think, look, accuracy is an interesting. Some people think, well, you either can throw it to a spot or not. To a point, that's true, but a lot of it is anticipation.
Right.
So a lot of it as you know what route is coming, you're throwing it to a spot. Well, if you're throwing it to a spot and the receiver's supposed to be there, he's not there, it looks inaccurate. Or if you're a little late and the receiver runs by, it's the combination of that. I think he can be better. I think with good protection, I think you'll see him be really effective. I think some of the times you got to break down each play, but when I break it down, there are times where he's a little bit concerned about the protection, so the ball came out a little inaccurately, which is going to happen against anybody. It's going to happen against Tom Brady. But then there are other times where I think that maybe he wasn't as quick deciphering things. So I think those things, if you can improve both the play around him and his recognition skills, I think he can get better. I expect him to have a really good year. Look, if he doesn't, it's not going to be the season for Tennessee that a lot of people think, because he's a big reason why you like Tennessee, because it's the offense, and the offense without a quarterback that can run it is going nowhere. So I think he'll be fine. He'll be good. And I think the offense will be good. How good? That's what's going to be fun to find out. It'll be good. Is it going to be good enough? And can they complement it? That's what I'm looking most forward to watching.
Breakdown of Tennessee's offense brought to you by the Mattress Place. The Mattress Place, just about 2 miles from campus. It's that close. So get to the Mattress Place and know that there are no gimmicks. It's 30 to 70% off every day. For Chris Landry, I'm Dave Hooker. This is a production of Off the Hook Sports.